Hello everybody and welcome to the UPC, the Unbanned Pokemon Classic. This is the first week's Pick'em crew, hosted by Coach Oak, where the whole league has gone through every matchup and picked who they think is going to pick up the victory. I believe this will be the first video on the channel as well, so welcome to the league. This is a league where we have expanded rosters up to 14, where we have taken out kind of the Mega tier and made a S tier of the kind of some Ubermons and things that are normally banned in Draft League, but still will be capable of balancing out, hence the expanded roster just to help counter some of those things as well. Like as you can see in this video, we have Protein Greninja and Mega Metagross, which were the first two picks in the draft. Mega Metagross going first, followed by Protein Greninja, then followed by Darkrai. And so we've got those two in the logo. Look how pretty, shout out to Sumami for that. And we're going to jump right into the first week's battles of Pick'em Crew. Before we get going, I'm just going to go through, give you a little bit idea of the format, then we're going to talk about the actual picks, and I'll go through as we go through each matchup and give you just a little bit about my thoughts on the matchup as well, just why it could be a advantageous matchup one way or the other, etc, etc. And when it gets to my match, I'm not going to give too much either way, because I'll feel like I'm either playing mind games or giving away too much information since the battle has not yet occurred. This is going up before the battle, and so I'm basically just going to read off all the names in my battle of the Mons participating as if it was a sporting event. Yeah, so let's jump right into the format here. This is how we're going to get it all set up looking here. You've got the coaches' names on the side, in which I have been reduced to just Oak rather than Coach Oak. But it's fine. Moving on, as you can see, it is in order of who had first pick in the draft all the way down to the 12th pick in the draft. And it was Snake Draft, of course. So you have the person, the coach, and then you'll have the matchup at the top and who they pick to win as well as their lock. And then as the season progresses, we will have the total of correct picks and how many of the lock picks they got correct. Locking a pick means that is who you feel the strongest is going to pick up a win that week, and that is your kind of, if I was to put money down, I would put money on this matchup kind of pick. So let's jump right into it. So as you can see here, we have a whole lot of names going on. We will go over it all in time, I promise. First thing to point out, Kurt has not had a chance to do his pick'ems yet. If he gets it done before the matchups, they will count, and you will see in next week's totals how it happened. But for now, it's just going to stay blank, so we won't talk about Kurt's picks, which could sway some of the numbers, but it's close enough that we can get this out, and we want to get this out before the first battle occurs, as this is mostly for us in the league, and I hope for any others who might be watching this as well. So first off, we have, our first matchup is the Seattle Salandit and the Winston Weaviles, coached by Sumami and Sketch AV, respectively. So let's go over this matchup a little bit, but first, let's talk about who people are picking. So we do have two coaches who have locked in their picks in this matchup, but they've locked in for different coaches. Grape has locked for the Salandit and Sumami, and Bidoof has locked in for the Weaviles and Sketch. We have 7 coaches who have locked in, who have picked the Salandit, and we have then respectively 4 who have picked the Weaviles, with of course Bidoof being in the minority, but picking this strongly as a lock, which could give him a great advantage going forward in this thing. Let's run down the matchup a little bit here. So, running through the rosters real quick, for the Winston Weaviles, we have Genesect, Clefable, Cresselia, Incineroar, Mega Ampharos, Donphan, Sceptile, Quillfish, Golbat, Mismagius, Tornadus, Therian, Machamp, Rotom, Freeze, and Slacking. And then for the Salandit, we have Tapu Lele, Mega Altaria, Gliscor, Salazzle, Decidueye, Rotom Heat, Quagsire, Vikavolt, Licky Licky, Lantern, Zapdos, Cobalion, Klinklang, and Shedinja. First off, Shedinja and Slacking, great matchup. I want to see that. Guys, make it happen, okay? Just right away, want to see it happen. So let's go through real quickly here and see how things go. First off the top, you always want to look at the S tiers and how they match up, as obviously those are the strongest mons we have, and that matchup could be important. Genesect obviously has the matchup there, as it has the Steel typing, which can hit Tapu Lele extremely hard and has this natural speed advantage. Obviously, Tapu Lele could be like Scarf, Hidden Power, Fire, but would that be enough to take on the Genesect? It's not entirely certain at this time. Genesect also can hit on both sides of the spectrum, so it's hard to have the bulk to live with something, even though Tapu Lele is bulky. So that immediately gives kind of 1 point towards the Weaviles. However, as you go down, things go a little bit more sideways in terms of for the Weaviles. Gliscor is a really tough matchup for the Weaviles, as their only ice type is Rotom Freeze, which the Rotoms are all great, don't get me wrong, but only being able to send off blizzards without the hail is a bit tough. So hitting Gliscor and Mega Lotaria is going to be hard for the ice stab, which obviously you always want ice going up against Gliscor, because that thing is just a massive pain in the butt to take down without the 4 times super effective ice type. Vikavolt also looks to like it could be a problem for the Weaviles. With Thunderbolt could lay down some big damage to some of their walls. However, Mega Ampharos is going to propose a problem outside of Gliscor and a boosted Mega Lotaria. Boosted Mega Lotaria is going to be a problem, of course. It always is. But it is going to cause a problem to a lot of the bulk, as none of the bulk on the Weavile side really resists the dual Dragon Fairy stab, which, I mean, that's tough for anybody to do. The only thing that really has a decent matchup there would be Genesect, so let's see if Genesect packs on some things for Altaria in hopes of taking it out, and see if it is enough to stop the Dragon Dance set that very likely could come. Not necessarily, of course, but outside of that, Quagsire seems to have a good matchup as well. Sceptile, while it's a good grass type, is not necessarily the most reliable, and they definitely have switch-ins to that in the form of Mega Lotaria, etc., etc. But it definitely looks like Quagsire could be a problem for the Weaviles to break as well. And of course, Cresselia is always a problem to break. Getting that thing at tier 2 is just, it's just ugly. So we'll have to see if something like Decidueye or Vikavolt can take that thing down. One other thing of note as well, the Weaviles do not have a rock type, and we've talked about their one ice type, which are the only things that can hit Zapdos super effectively when it is not on a roost turn, which of course when it is, it then becomes super effective with ground types, but that's hard to read. So breaking down Zapdos is going to be a problem as well. So this is really going to be a battle of seeing if the Weaviles can stop Mega Altaria, and if they can break down things like Quagsire and Zapdos and whatever, or Gliscor, whatever kind of things they want to bring. Rotom Heat and Salazzle both will threaten Genesect strongly, as well as any other fire type coverage like Fire Fang on Gliscor, etc., etc. So it'll be interesting to see how this match goes. I personally am leaning towards Slanted, as with most of the other coaches in the league, but there is definitely a contingent who believes in the Weaviles this week. Let's move on to the next matchup, which is the Portland Primates, coached by Honor, and the New Orleans Sandslash, coached by Knife. So this is a very interesting battle in the sense of it's kind of a battle of bulky offense versus stall. Or maybe I'll call it extremely bulky, not quite as offensive in the Sandslash. Sandslash drafted a team of Mew, Celesteela, Hippowdon, Melodic, Umbreon, Crobat, Ribombee, Mega Banette, Stoutland, Sandslash, Chestnut, Arcanine, Magnezone, and Sigilyph, whereas the Primates drafted Mega Metagross, Sylveon, Conkeldurr, Volcarona, Crawdaunt, Dragalge, Jellicent, Frostlass, Rotom Fam, Armaldo, Dugtrio, Shaman, Braviary, and Druddigon. So, let's run down this matchup a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot of very expensive bulk on the New Orleans Sandslash side, and things like Celesteela, Hippowdon, Melodic, Umbreon, Mew, and even Arcanine as well. And there's a lot of kind of bulky offense mons that can go both sides, as well as providing some setup options and some wall breakers, and some kind of course, trapping going on with Dugtrio as well. on the side of the Primates. But the one thing of note is Shaman seems to be in a really good spot this week to deal with Hippowdon or Melodic, whichever one comes, as a strong grass type move, and of course it is the Z user as well for the Primates. Will be able to bust holes, and at least one of those likely brings bulky, as well as Sand Slash as well if it was to come for a spinner and a rocker, as well as Shaman getting obviously very good coverage as well to deal with some other things like Arcanine with Earth Power on a switch and Magnezone as well. Things like that. So it looks to be in a good spot this matchup, which is why we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 coaches leaning towards the Primates this week. However, we have 2 teams that have locked in, and they've locked in for the Sand Slash. So out of the 3 people who have picked the Sand Slash, 2 feel so strongly that they have locked it in. So this is an interesting breakdown amongst the league, as some feel very strongly for Sand Slash, but most of the league is leaning towards the Primates. Primates. Sorry, it's been a long day. I can't talk. Yeah, you'll do. It's fine. You guys know it. It's okay. We'll get through the pronunciation problems. Comment below how it's actually pronounced. I'll figure it out. I'll say it right next time. Maybe, probably not, but we'll try. Anyways, going back into this matchup, some things like Celesteela and Umbreon will have to be dealt with. Maybe things like Conkeldurr can deal with that. On the other side of things, Mew is hoping to deal with Conkeldurr. Hippowdon's probably looking to deal with Mega Metagross. You've got Celesteela, who's hoping to deal damage out to things like Sylveon, and maybe even Shaman, and some other, maybe even Volcarona with Air Slash, even though it does not want to stay on a boosting Volcarona. Rocks is probably going to come, as Volcarona obviously is good in this matchup against Celesteela, and with Giga Drain coverage as well on things, it definitely looks to be in a pretty good spot to come. So if you think Volcarona is coming against you, you're probably bringing the Rocks for the 4x weakness, which means you got to look to the clearing for the Primates, which they don't have the greatest clearing. Braviary can clear, although it itself is weak to Rocks, and Armaldo is probably their best at clearing, which Armaldo's not the best bring, as Celesteela, Hippowdon, Melodic, all are going to deal with that thing really easily. Even Crobat's going to lay big dents in that. Arcanine's going to put a dent into it. Chestnut's going to put a dent into it. So Armaldo's not really in a great spot. So clearing might be an issue, which is always going to be a problem when you need to lean on Volcarona. On the other side of things, there is definitely kind of a weakness to grass and fighting, which can put holes in this team, and we will see how that works, as your opponent obviously has strong Pokemon in that type. Let's move on now to the Nosepass and the Incineroar. As I said, I will not be commenting too greatly on this matchup, but we have the Ikitown Incineroar, coached by myself, Coach Oak, not just Oak, and the Ikitown Incineroar, as I just said. And then we have the Norwalk Nosepass, coached by Hydra. So I'm going to run through these rosters here for you, and you can make your own decisions, but I will say before I do that, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coaches have chose the Incineroar, with 2 locking it in, and 1, 2, 3, 4 have chosen the Nosepass without locking it in. So let's run through these rosters. In the Nosepass corner, we have Mega Kangaskhan, Lando T, Klefki, Rotom Wash, Serena, Alolan Ninetales, Drapion, Shuckle, Kecleon, Frogadier, Haxorus, Hoopa, Talonflame, and Heracross. And in the Incineroar corner, we have Darkrai, Black, Mega Aggron, Ranunculus, Galvantula, Delmise, Hariyama, Yanmega, Weezing, Rhydon, Mentine, Chandelure, Gardevoir, and Slurpuff. So, let's get ready to rumble! No, okay. Alright, I'm done. Let's move on. If you hated that, like this video, put a comment telling me how much you hate me, all that good stuff that gets the interactions going here. So our next battle, we have the Marinis versus the Bidoofs. We have the Seattle Marinis coached by Easy, as well as the Buffalo Bidoofs coached by Bidoof. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coaches picking the Marinis, with 1 locking it in and 4 choosing the Bidoofs. Let's run down these lineups and talk about this matchup. So the Marinis have Pheromosa, Mega Scizor, Slowbro, Mimikyu, Nidoqueen, Jolteon, Zoroark, Moltres, Miltank, Leavanny, Garchomp, Hitmonchan, Beware, and Oricorio, all forms. And the Bidoofs have Mega Blaziken, Tapu Fini, Ferrothorn, Goodra, Crocodile, Swallow, Mesprit, Cofagrigus, Masquerain, Muk, Tapu Koko, Cryogonal, Metagross, and Girder. So we have a double Tapu team for the Bidoofs, which immediately means there's a huge hole that Mega Scizor can run through. So they need to bring their counters to Mega Scizor, which they have Mega Blaziken. That's a pretty good counter. We have... So that's the Steel type that can take advantage. Obviously, Nidoqueen can take advantage there with the Poison typing as well as being able to take care of Blaziken. So the Bidoofs probably need to bring an answer to Nidoqueen, which something like Crocodile can run through that for sure, as well as being able to take on things like Slowbro, Mimikyu to an extent, and yeah, pretty well those 3, as well as being able to lay coverage down on Moltres that it does not want to take. And we've got things like Jolteon looks to be in a good spot, especially if Tapu Koko lays down the electric terrain and it can Voltazorb on it. It can lay down things on Fini and just be a pain in the butt for most of this team to deal with. Goodra looks to be in a good spot in terms of being broken down. Mimikyu seems to be the main threat to it, as well as Special Pheromosa with obviously the Ice type. And Garchomp to an extent, of course, which they're gonna threaten each other with the Dragon typing. Garchomp also seems to have a really good matchup here, which is why I've leaned towards the Marinis, because countering offensive Garchomp is going to be very tough with the right coverage on that Garchomp. So maybe something like a Scarf Garchomp, or just a boosting Garchomp, or even just a good coverage offensive Garchomp could put in a lot of work here. And the Bidoofs are going to want to bring some very good answers to that, like maybe Ice Beam on Masquerain could be a tech and a bring that could surprise Garchomp. Yeah, and obviously Tapu Fini gets that coverage, but Garchomp has the ability to hit with Poison Jab as well. And there's a lot of back and forth that's going to go on in this matchup. Cryogonal, of course, could come and threaten Garchomp as well if it is not a Scarf variety, which then obviously you can figure that out and counter from there. So it'll be interesting to see how this matchup goes, and see which way is lean, as this match obviously it can't go both ways, as we have 7 and 4 as our picks here. So let's go into our next battle, which is the Jazz versus the Noctowls. Catastrophe, coach of the U-Turn Jazz, and the New Jersey Noctowls, coached by Turn. This is our biggest one-way sway in a matchup this week, as the Jazz only have 3 people choosing them and 0 locking it in, and the Noctowls having so far 8 who have chosen them, with 2 locking it in. The reason for this, Mega Charizard X. I am one of the people who locked this as my lock, because I really don't see how the Jazz are going to counter Mega Charizard X if it gets a Dragon Dance up, and there are some things that it definitely can get that Dragon Dance up on the Jazz's team if they bring it. So let's run through the roster here. Magearna, Salamence, Diggersby, Bisharp, Amoonguss, Darmanitan, Alola, Chinchino, Alolan Golem, Samurott, Mega Metacham, Cloyster, Selgor, and Golurk. With the right coverage, Mega Charizard can hit everything at least neutral, and can hit a lot of things super effectively, as well as being able to set up on things like Amogus and Alola. So it's something that the Jazz need to be careful of, and if they counter that correctly, this very well could swing in their favor. But that is the number one thing that jumped out at me looking at this matchup. In other spots here, though, let's look. Magearna looks to have a decent matchup in terms of dealing with things like Florges and Gigalith, which can be threats, as well as with the coverage dealing with Excadrill, depending on if it's in sand or not. It can also break Mandibuzz, which of course you want to bring something to break Mandibuzz. It's a Mandibuzz. And being able to hit Hitmontop, like it can deal a lot of damage to a lot of things. Avalugg as well. And it depends what Magearna you bring. Of course, it's always a threat if it gets a Soul Heart, and if it has speed control, when it gets that Soul Heart, you might be in trouble. So we have two big sweepers in the S tiers here. Going else through, Diggersby is going to threaten Alola Muck for sure, but Alola Muck can wall a whole lot of Catastrophe's team. So look for that to see how that interaction goes. Obviously Golurk will threaten it as well. But Diggersby with that pure power being a little bit stronger at hitting it. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this match goes. This is definitely a match that is going to focus a lot on Mega Charizard X and Magearna in the S tier spots. Moving on to our last match for this week, we have the Mews and the Kartanas. We have Killer Kartana, coached by Grape, and the New York Mews, coached by Bash. We have 6 teams picking the Mews with 1 locking in, and 5 teams so far picking the Kartanas with 1 locking in. So a very close matchup in terms of the league thoughts on this battle. Let's run through this really quickly here. We have, for the Kartana, we have Protein Greninja, Jirachi, Togekiss, Blissey, Kyurem, Aerodactyl, Barizion, Typhlosion, Claydol, Dusclops, Megalectric, Golisopod, Bileplume, and Houndoom, as well as Mega Lucario, Victini, Celebi, Primarina, Flygon, Heliolisk, Hitmonlee, Palosand, Steelix, Garbodor, Tapu Bulu, Ditto, Alolan Persian, and normal Rotom. The best Rotom. Except not the best, but, you know, the coolest. Let's take a look and see what we think of this matchup so far. Typhlosion can lay dents in some important mons in Celebi and Mega Lucario, but it also, and even Heliolisk as well if it comes with dry skin, for sure, as well as just hitting these neutral and even hitting Steelix really hard as well, and Tapu Bulu. So Typhlosion could be a good thing to bring, but also Bulky Victini and Primarina are just going to wall that thing, unless there's Sun up for Solar Beam to go off. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Something like Z Sunny Day Jirachi to set the sun for Typhlosion could be a interesting strategy, as well as getting that boost on Jirachi, which then it can lay down Iron Heads and just be a Jirachi, do RNG things, or Togekiss can do that. No one wants to face that core. I'm sorry, Bash. That's a tough week 1 to deal with. Protein Greninja is going to be able to, obviously with the right coverage, light some holes. Ice type moves will do some good damage to a lot of things, as well as if it brings something like even fighting type to an extent, could do some damage, especially if Ditto switches in on it to get some fighting. So there's some interesting options for Greninja. Water type obviously is going to hit some things very hard as well, like Palisand and Victini. So it's an interesting matchup for Protein Greninja. Mega Lucario, that priority is going to be very helpful. against things like Togekiss, and obviously Blissey doesn't really want to take anything from Mega Lucario. Greninja can get hurt badly by its priority. It can Blade Dance and Kira, like it can run through some things as well. For electric communities, you have, for the Muse side of things, to deal with Mega Manectric, you have Flygon and Steelix. But fire coverage is going to hurt Steelix, and if it has Hidden Power Ice, that's going to really hurt Flygon. So something like Tapu Bulu might be a little better, but again, fire and ice coverage on Manectric is going to be tough, so I'll be interested to see how the Mews are going to stop Mega Manectric, which is why I myself leaned towards the Kartanas. Alright, so now that we've run through kind of every matchup, good luck to everyone this week. Once again, let's get ready to rumble! Yeah! So, hope you enjoyed this, everybody. Hope to be back with Pick'em Crews again. Good luck with all your picks. Good luck in your battles. Hope you enjoyed, everyone. See you next time.